Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I'm absolutely convinced that today's guest and fellow entrepreneur is on the same mission that I am, because she also believes that so many more people could be entrepreneurs, could have their own business, and get paid even more than those shackles of a traditional and corporate job. I'm so excited for all of you to hear not only the story, but the insights from today's guest. So let me introduce you to her. Her name is Cara Gibson-Gallop. Cara has a former corner office New York ad agency position. She's a corporate dropout turned startup founder on a mission to change the way that we look at layoffs and leaving our comfort zones. And that's why, honestly, I love her business. She's the founder and CEO of Autonomy. And at Autonomy, they provide laid off professionals and new graduates resources to turn their skill set into a freelance or consulting business. At the same time, they help organizations stay close with departed talent because, let's face it, it's hard to find good work these days. It's hard to find good help. And that's why I love all the things of Cara's offerings and what she brings to the world, because let's face it, in those low moments when your career takes those twists and turns, and sometimes they feel unexpected and sometimes they might feel unwanted, Cara is incredible at giving you a roadmap to success, getting on your feet and flourishing in all new ways. So I'm excited about this one. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Cara Gibson-Gallop. All right, Cara, I am so very excited for this one. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled we've been able to connect because, like you mentioned, we are on the same mission for sure.
Yes, 100%. And I will say, I can already tell that you're busy because I'm super appreciative of your flexibility in scheduling. We made it happen, so I totally appreciate that part of your schedule. But Cara, take us beyond the bio. Who's Cara? How did you start doing all these cool things?
Oh my goodness. So it's been a wild ride. I graduated with my marketing degree. I thought I did everything right, went straight into my MBA. And then was laid off from my first three corporate positions out of school. And we took it, went with the flow. Everything really ended up working out for the best, as it always truly does. And at one point in about 2018, since I had been laid off those 3 times, I told myself like this was never going to happen again. I was not going to rely on one source of income, especially a source of income I didn't really have much control over. So I had a side hustle. I worked on local marketing, websites, small business stuff. And in 2018, that side hustle outweighed my corporate salary. And so I took the leap and I went and I did my own thing, and I just continued to grow and grow and grow. What continued to weigh on me was this idea of like how archaic the layoff process is, how it's really not built for people. It's really just built for the bottom line, right? So in about 2020, during the pandemic, I had a lot of old colleagues reach out and say like, hey, how can I do what you did back in 2018? I've either been laid off or I see the writing on the wall. And so what I started to do was like this one-on-one coaching with old colleagues, help them take their skill set and turn it into either a freelance or a consulting business. It was great. I felt so fulfilled. It was my favorite thing I had ever done. But at the same time, asking someone to invest in themselves in a really vulnerable time was really hard. So I racked my brain. We did everything we could to make it affordable. And finally, I said the companies that are doing the layoffs should be paying for this resource. So that's when we used to call it from autonomy or from agency to autonomy. And that's when autonomy systems came into play. we built it up so that it was scalable, that we could take on hundreds, thousands of clients at a time. And we built it so that the companies, the organizations that are doing the layoffs were fronting the investment of it. And so now it's a really cool resource for companies when they do have to go through layoffs, and it is painful and no one enjoys doing it. They can at least say, hey, we've been able to enroll you in this program, take your skill set, build your freelancer consulting business. And at the same time, what works for the company is that they've got this lifeline to the talent, to the individual, so that when they are ready to either take on freelancers or hire back, there is kind of like that tether, and we haven't completely destroyed the relationship or burnt that bridge in the process. So that's the long and the short of it. And it's been working really great. We are thrilled to be able to offer this to organizations that truly care about their people. And at the same time, we've also seen it work really well with higher education. We've been able to offer this to universities and colleges for graduates that want to take their skill set and work for themselves. And maybe they did go down that traditional route in school, but they might not want to do the traditional job outside of school. So the same system has been able to work for college graduates.
Okay, that is so cool, Cara, because honestly, it gives us so many things that I want to dive into. The hardest part about today is going to be squeezing it into one podcast episode together. So I'm going to toss you a very loaded question to begin with, because I love the fact that this isn't just something you do. This is something you personally did. Like, you actually went through this transition. And I feel like your story itself encompasses everything about what it means to successfully transition from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. So I want to start in that side of things, because you talk about having a side hustle. Cara, quite frequently, I really struggle with my friends who have 9-to-5 jobs, and I always ask them, why don't you have a side hustle? Like, everybody should have a side hustle. Take us back to your side hustle. And the loaded part of the question is, why wouldn't or shouldn't literally everybody have that sort of side hustle?
So, huge believer in side hustles, right? So those first 3 positions that I poured my time and resources and energy into, right? For any kind of reason that could end, whether it is something with maybe a client that you're working on or the organization itself, right? So these are all positions that when you get into them, it might not always be top of mind that these can change in a drop of a dime. So we're big believers in side hustles, whether you're really comfortable in that corporate position and things feel absolutely amazing, like nothing could go wrong. They always can. So I like to think of it as like an insurance policy. There will always be something to fall back on. And if you do find yourself in the position that you need that insurance policy and you haven't been investing in your side hustle, there are resources like Autonomy that can help you build that side hustle after a layoff or after a graduation, something like that. But we're big believers in always having another stream of income and having that backup plan.
Cara, I wonder how much you hear this. I hear it from especially the entrepreneur part of our audience, where they always say to me, like, Brian, I don't have a business idea, which is crazy to me, because on a daily basis, Cara, I probably have 50 new business ideas, but I feel like we often get put into these boxes where if you're a financial analyst by day, you kind of assume that your side hustle has to be a financial analyst. But I obviously interview entrepreneurs for a living, and I've heard financial analysts that start an Etsy shop or a candle shop or a soap brand or literally anything. So talk to us about the types of side hustles, the types of companies that we can start, and how we get those ideas from it.
Absolutely. Right. So every good business idea starts with that fulfilling a need. And that need doesn't have to be in the industry that maybe you studied or maybe you worked in. If that need is for a particular thing that is hard to find on Etsy, or maybe it's on Etsy, but it's at a different price point and there's a demographic that's being underserved, right? That's a need, and any business can be built to fill those needs. So when we do have someone that, one, doesn't know where to start with their skill set, or maybe wants to build a business not using their current skill set, we're all for it. We love to do deep dives and help people figure out like what are they passionate about, where do their skill sets lie, and how can we marry those two things to come up with an awesome business plan.
Yeah, I love that, especially because thinking about your own story, let's talk about your side hustle. You mentioned your side hustle replaced your full-time income. I would imagine in that position, Cara, it's very easy to say, okay, it's time. I'm leaving my full-time job. Talk to us about that. I feel like that's a little bit of an unusual story where either people leave before they get to that point or they never get to that point because they're not sufficiently working on their business and their side hustle. How did you manage that?
Absolutely. The one thing I can say about that is I wish I left sooner. I definitely did not need to wait until my side hustle outweighed my corporate salary. Honestly, if I had left sooner, I probably would have made way more money way sooner. So I tell people all the time that I made that mistake, and that was an opportunity loss for sure. Yeah. So having that side hustle really gives you the flexibility to work with the people and the clients that you want to work with, offer the types of services that you want to offer. And you really get to build your business on your own terms. And that is something that is absolutely huge for a lot of people coming out of corporate that felt like they had no flexibility, and really had like no say in their day to day. So we're really big believers in building that hustle, making it something that you enjoy doing, you're passionate about, and knowing that the more time you have to spend on it, the faster and the bigger that you can scale your business.
Yeah, with that in mind, I wonder how much of your work and your advice to the people that you work with has to do around mindset, because this conversation takes me all the way back to 2012 when I had just graduated college. I was working a full-time job within healthcare as a business analyst, certainly not anything healthcare related. And I had started my search engine optimization agency just on the side. And so when I would talk to local business owners, I'll be honest with you, Cara, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, because here I was telling them about this agency that, it existed in theory, but I didn't have any clients at that point. And then also I had a full-time job that I didn't really want to tell them about. I felt really weird, like, fake it till you make it, pretending that I have this agency. I knew I could help them, but I also wanted the credibility of this is what I do, even though it's not 100% of what I do for a living. How the heck do you navigate those types of mindset stuff?
Mindset is the first thing that we go through in the Autonomy course. So once you get enrolled, it's a self-paced course, it's group coaching, it's all of the things. But the first thing we tackle is mindset, and it's huge. And this is what I can say to that. What you're offering, your skill set, your experience, no one else has it. Maybe other people have the same skill set or the same offer, but nobody has your background, your experience. And there's someone out there, there's a lot of someone's out there that can absolutely benefit from the value you bring. Every time you're afraid to tell someone about your business or what you offer, it's selfish. And that's a really weird way and kind of harsh way of looking at it, but there's someone that can benefit from what you have to offer, and to not share it with the world is just selfish. That was what I needed to think about, getting over those obstacles of my own ego or my own pride. And there were so many people that could benefit from what I was doing at the time with my side hustle. And I wish, like I said, I had left corporate earlier. I could have helped more businesses. I could have helped more individuals with my skill set. And that is the best way I know how to look at it. But yeah, mindset is a huge piece of the puzzle. And I think once you get over that step, it all falls into place.
Yeah, it's so well said. And I want to go on this topic a little bit further here before we move on, because one of the mindsets that I realized in hindsight that I had to overcome was the permission mindset. I think when we're employees, we are always looking for permission. Heck, we have to ask for permission to take time off, to go on vacation, or to spend family time, which as entrepreneurs, you and I can laugh at it these days, but it's a real thing when we have jobs. And I find that a lot of people who are still in their 9-to-5 jobs, they almost are looking for permission to start their business. They're looking for permission to do these things on the side. And they want to make it clear, I'm not going to be doing this during business hours, but they still feel guilty because it is that permission-based society that we all got raised in. What's your take on that? Like, how much input should there be from the employer? How much should we just give ourselves permission? Hopefully this episode is us giving permission, Cara. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Brian and I give you permission to jump and do it. But the reality of it is, I think anyone can weigh in. Anyone can say you can do it. But until you feel like you can give yourself permission, it won't last and it won't really be as impactful. I think that everyone needs to kind of do a deep dive and go back to their why. Why do you want to do this? Is it for more money? That's okay, because money is time, and that just allows us to do more with our time. Maybe it is to spend more time with family, whether that could be a sick parent or a new baby. There are tons of reasons why this should be or could be important to you. And if you really focus on your why, and your why is big enough, that will allow you to unlock that permission that you need to give yourself. I started with a notebook and a pencil and just started to jot down all of my whys. And in 2018, my why was not my husband or my kids or my house. It was going to the gym for as long as I wanted to. It was being able to travel and see my friends that had moved away. So your why, no matter what stage of life, it's important. And just know that your why can change and your why is going to evolve. And that's okay, because your business will likely change and evolve as well.
Yeah, so well said. Cara, I want to switch gears a little bit because I will be honest with you here while we're on the air. You and I didn't talk about this before we hit record, but part of really what attracted us to inviting you here on the show today and why we're so excited to have you here is that it seems to me like there's something special that happens in people's lives in the middle of a layoff, in the middle of losing their job for one reason or another. I obviously interview entrepreneurs for a living, and it blows my mind the percentage of guests that we have on that their story starts with, a lot of times recently, of course, they say, well, in 2020, I was laid off because obviously the world changed in 2020. It seems like it sparked such a new wave of entrepreneurs. And of course, layoffs are always happening. What's so special? What is in the waters when people are getting laid off that some of these incredible entrepreneurs see that opportunity? And then, Cara, I'm going to put you in the spotlight. You obviously recognize this opportunity for laid off professionals. What's so special about that moment?
That moment is so special because it's so vulnerable. And you also are given a lot of time to think. Whether you want it or not, you've now got time to think as soon as that layoff starts. And so I think what's super special about that time is you're vulnerable. It feels raw for a lot of people. It's sad. It's hard. You leave colleagues, you leave work that maybe you enjoy doing, but at the very least, it was your comfort zone. And I think that that magic happens getting out of that comfort zone. And maybe you want to go find that next full-time job in that same industry, doing that same thing. And that really ignites some people. But for a lot of people, it doesn't. Or the thought of this happening again is so daunting that it kind of ruins the excitement of going to find a new job, a very similar job in the same industry. So I think that excitement comes when anything is possible. And maybe we wouldn't necessarily take the leap ourselves, but when the rug is pulled out from under you and you kind of have to take that jump, I feel like that's where the magic is. That's where the whys come out. That's where the what do I really want to do comes out. And that's where we get to help people craft amazing offers, awesome businesses, and really turn their life into something that they want it to be. Work could be easily worked into your lifestyle. And I think that is really exciting for people that have been stuck in that 9 to 5 and feel like there's really no other option.
Yeah, hearing you say it and express it that way, Cara, really reveals to me so much of your attitude. Is like one of my favorite quotes, that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And it seems to me like that's the origin story for all of these laid off professionals who become entrepreneurs. Is they're like, I realized I didn't want to be at that job anyways, but too many people would have just stayed, because we use that term in entrepreneurship all the time of golden handcuffs. And so what a blessing and a surprise it can be, even though it might feel unwanted in those moments. But you bring up that term of vulnerable, and I would imagine you touched on it a little earlier in our conversation, that it's a vulnerable moment, not only career wise and mindset wise, but especially financially. And so I'd love for you to talk more about that model, because clearly you understand this pain point for people, and clearly you've shaped your business and your strategy and your distribution channel really in a way that helps people through those financial struggles. Talk to us about that channel. I'm so fascinated by you actually teaming up with employers.
Yeah. So the one thing I can say is, even if you haven't started your side hustle yet, build up your LinkedIn. Your connections are so valuable. That network is so valuable, because what you will be able to do if the time comes that you either are ready to jump, or maybe you do see yourself in a layoff, you can rely on communicating with that network. It's huge. We've had people start in their first week of Autonomy. They haven't even figured out exactly what they want to offer, and they reach out to their network with a script that we have, tons of scripts that have worked and other examples that people can use when they enroll in Autonomy. But we had someone take a script, tell their network that they were building something in the background. They made $17,000 by the end of the week. People didn't even know what they were buying yet, but they were buying time. They were buying value, consulting, and they just had such a great network and of people that knew how they worked, what they did, how much they loved it. And just having that network brings so much value. So you can start teasing your side hustle. You could start teasing your business and make money before you even know exactly what you want to offer, if you have a strong network of people that have worked with you either as colleagues or maybe they were clients in the past. And yeah, there is just so much value in building those communities, whether it is on social media like your Instagram and your Facebook, or really leveraging something like LinkedIn. But those are some really great places to start. If you haven't started yet, build that network. Jump on a LinkedIn, and those people that you might know down your right-hand side of your screen, if you truly know them and worked with them, start building that network, because you never know when you're going to need them.
Yes, so well said. Cara, I'll tell you what, even hearing the way you talk about the people who you've worked with, it makes me realize the biggest thing that I appreciate about your business is that you have a system, you have a framework. And to me, that's something that's really powerful. I remember when I started my first business, which was a soccer blog, and people asked me, how can I replicate that? I had no framework. I was just kind of figuring it out along the way, Cara. But you've obviously been very intentional and strategic about laying out the roadmap that's worked for you, and of course, for so many others that you've worked with. And that's why it's repeatable. And I think that's such an important part of a system or a framework. And it's also not lost on me. I want to call this out while we're here on the air together, because you've said a few times that you help people work out their offer. I love that that's what you keep calling out, because a lot of people think that starting a side hustle or starting their first freelance or consulting business starts with building a website, getting a logo, printing business cards. It's so clear to me that you are so offer focused that you bypass a lot of the traditional steps that of course they'll need eventually. But talk to me about why that's so ingrained in your approach and why that's so important.
Oh, absolutely. The offer is everything. We spend a lot of time with our enrollees working out the offer, because one, you need to feel really good about it. We want you to be so excited that you want to scream it from the rooftops. If you're not super excited about your offer, that tells us that you're not going to be very excited to sell your offer. So if we can get everyone super excited about their offer and feeling really good, that also helps keep the imposter syndrome away. If you have a really strong offer, it also helps all the vulnerabilities and maybe embarrassment of maybe like selling for the first time. If your offer is strong and you feel good about it and it aligns with your why, nothing can knock you down. So that's why we really start there. Everything else will fall into line. The business cards, the website, all of those things will be so much stronger if you start with that offer and what you want to provide to people. So we're big offer focused guys. That's where we start. That's where we spend a lot of the time. Like I said, everything else falls into place. But that needs to be super strong to begin with.
Yeah, I love that. Cara, I knew it would be so hard to squeeze all of this stuff into a quick episode, but I do want to squeeze in a couple more questions. And with that in mind, I'd love for you to paint the picture of that roadmap, because for a lot of listeners, especially all those entrepreneurs out there, I know they're getting excited by hearing you talk about this. And I also know that people will be getting excited about, it seems to me, like I said, it's kind of out of order. You're breaking that order of operations. And I, as someone who's been an entrepreneur for 17 years now, I recognize, Cara, you're doing it the right way. Like, listeners, if Cara's approach sounds different for you, it's because this is the correct approach that most people won't come publicly on a podcast and share with you. So huge kudos and thanks to you, Cara. But I'd love for you to give that roadmap, kind of an overview for people who are listening and saying, shoot, all right, so you're saying I should start with an offer, figure that out. What do I do then? Do I just start accepting payments and serving clients? What's that roadmap look like?
Absolutely. So first 3 steps, right? That mindset we talked about, the offer, they go hand in hand. And then the third thing is getting comfortable with sales. You don't need to necessarily be the face of your business. If that's not something that feels authentic to you, that's okay. We have tons of people that do faceless businesses, businesses without their name attached. That makes some people feel much more comfortable. But those are really the 3 things we want to tackle: the mindset, the offer, and then feeling comfortable with sales. Then we get into the marketing, the tactics, the strategy. How do we find your offer now that we know, how do we find your audience now that we have your offer? Who can really benefit from what you have to offer to the world? And so we help people really identify what that is, who can benefit from it, and really start to pair those 2 things together. Then we'll move into project management. Now that we've got your first few clients, how do we manage this? Maybe it is looking at how many clients do we ideally want to have at one time to keep us business, to keep the cash flow going. It could be a lot depending on your offer. It could be very few. So we really like to take a look at that. And then we've got operations, right? So now how do we take your skill set, your offer, your audience, and how do we scale this when the time is right? So we go through the whole framework, the whole roadmap, from creating that LLC to figuring out which project management tools might be right for you, to figuring out which social media platforms and which kind of marketing strategies and tactics. We have all of it laid out. But like you said, it all starts with that offer, and it all needs to align with that offer and that why. And so what we want to do is help people build businesses that feel really authentic to them, not just because that's how they think they should do it. We feel really strongly about making people feel really good about their business and their lifestyle and marrying those 2 things. And we feel like that's really what makes these businesses last.
My goodness, Cara, I love your business. I love your approach. It is so much fun, and it's so refreshing hearing someone like you come here on the air publicly and just spell it all out for people, because I think the big message, and I'm really excited for listeners to take this away, is how attainable it is for everyone. Here behind the scenes, our mission is to serve both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and I feel like your business so beautifully blends and makes accessible to everybody along that way what true business fundamentals look like and how to be successful in getting that off the ground, which I'll be honest, Cara, having as many business ventures as I had at this point in my life, getting off the ground is the hardest part. And I'm super grateful that there's people like you with approaches and frameworks like you that is making it a reality for people. So I'm very excited to hear how you answer this last question. It's the question I ask at the end of every episode. It's super broad. I have no idea which direction you'll take it in. And that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we've got both sides of that coin listening today, both the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs at all different stages of their growth journeys. And also knowing, I'm going to reiterate, you're one of us. You are a fellow entrepreneur yourself. What's that one piece of advice that you want to leave them with today?
Absolutely. That one piece of advice for me is to go back to that why. Figure out a time that works best for you. I like to look at it quarterly. I feel like my life is so hectic and, acquiring new businesses and growing other businesses and growing a family. I need to look at my why on a quarterly basis to keep me truly aligned with what I'm working on. For an entrepreneur, that might be a once a year sort of thing. For an entrepreneur, maybe someone who might be feeling a little bit burnt out or a little bit tired might want to look at their why a little bit more frequently, like I do, on a quarterly basis. And I feel so reinvigorated and motivated after I do like a quick self session on my why. I'll take one of these like whiteboards and I'll just start to map out everything that I want to accomplish in the next quarter, the next year, how I want things to be different, what I want to keep doing more of the same of. And when I can align back with my why and who I'm helping and what I'm doing, I feel like nobody can stop me. So for both the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur, I can just absolutely suggest go back to that why. Whether you're starting out or whether you're feeling a little tired, that always helps me, and I hope it helps you too.
Boom. I love that. That is a high that no amount of dopamine can replace when we come back to, at our core, at our essence, why we're doing the things that we're doing and why we want and how we get lit up along the way. I think that's so important, Cara. There's certain episodes where I know that listeners are probably thinking, Brian, stop talking, let the guests drop their links. And I know that your link is going to be one that a lot of listeners want to check out. So, Cara, where should listeners go from here?
Absolutely. Autonomy.systems. You can find me there. Shoot me a message. I would love to connect with anyone working at a company that might want to offer autonomy. We'd love to speak with your company. If you're an individual and you just want to get started, you can find me on Instagram at Cara Lillian, CaraLillian. Either place you find me professionally or personally, I would love to connect. LinkedIn is also a really great place to connect. I'm always enjoying sharing other people's businesses, their freelance gigs, and their consulting gigs. So find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to share and help you find some more work.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. You don't have to go searching very far. We're linking to Cara's personal LinkedIn, her business website, her Instagram, so do not be shy. This is a fun episode for me because whether you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, whether you've got a full-time job or you're a full-time business owner, we've all got reasons to reach out to Cara and to check out her work, so don't be shy. Hit those links down below. Otherwise, Cara, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It's been awesome.